Hello and welcome to another Stamp with Amy K Facebook Live video. And today I'm going to show you a card that I made with the really pretty Blessings of Home stamp set. And actually we're going to make a slightly different version than the one that I'm actually showing you right now, just because this one involved quite a bit of coloring. And I wasn't sure that we were going to, I thought it would take a really long time for me to sit and color all that for you. So I'm going to change it up just a little bit, but basically we're going to make the same card. So hey Karen, thanks for hopping in today. So this is it. You've probably seen a few of them that are similar to this. And hey Jeannie, thanks for joining. Stampin' Up! Had their onstage event this past weekend, and they made a card similar to this one. It wasn't exactly like this one, but very similar. So I kind of swiped their layout and made a few changes to it and made a little different card. So this is what we're going to be making today. Hey Bonnie, thanks for joining. I appreciate you being here. This is the Blessings of Home stamp set, and this is actually from the upcoming January to June 2022 mini catalog. So this one is going to be available for ordering beginning on January 4th for customers. If you join as a demonstrator, you can actually order it beginning December 1st on the pre-order. So yay. It is bundled together with some beautiful dies, and the dies cut out the floral images and lots of little accessory floral pieces as well. So it's a really pretty stamp and die set bundle. So that's what we're going to be using today. On my actual card, this card, I actually didn't use any of the dies on it, but the card we're going to be making today, I actually did do a few die cuts. So I think that hopefully you like it. So hey Kay and Elise and Karen, thanks for joining in today as well. Glad you all are here. All right, so let me set the bundle aside. And one other thing that I did use on this is the, my ever favoriteest dies forever, these stitched rectangle dies. I used a couple of them to cut out the background panels as well as the sentiment on here. All right, so let me set those aside as well and try not to drop anything on the floor, which I probably will. Oh, quickly, before I get started, I almost started off and totally almost forgot to show you this stuff. So I had a few new things show up from the upcoming catalog as well. I did a big kind of unboxing video yesterday, but Stampin' Up! Later in the event, because I ordered like immediately, and then overnighted, and then everything showed up. And then Stampin' Up! Let us know that they were actually going to, we got some more free goodies from the event, and we just had to put in an order and we got free goodies with it. So, of course, I had to put in another order because I could not do it, but they showed up today, so I thought I would share those quickly on the video before we get going on the card. So there's some pretty ribbon. Again, this is from the upcoming January to June 2021 mini catalog. This is white, and it is frayed, 3/4 of an inch frayed ribbon. It's very pretty. I'll hold it up kind of closer to the screen so you can hopefully see it pretty well on there. It's very soft, and I think it's going to work nicely on card fronts. It'll probably be pretty chunky for a bow on a card front, but you could definitely loop it underneath the sentiment or do some pretty things with it as well. And I think it would be great actually to kind of fray it even some more and layer it underneath sentiment. So anyhow, so that is another new product that we got. It is really, really pretty. So, hey, Jackie, thanks for hopping in. And I see Ginny is here as well. And Akiko, thanks for joining. Hopefully I didn't already say hi to you. I'm not sure if I did. So, all right, another thing, we've got some brushed brass butterflies. And I have to be a little careful because wrong words that rhyme with those want to come out of my mouth when I say that. And so I'm going to try to slowly say it and not say it in something I don't want it to be. So anyhow, so these, here they are. They're similar to the brushed metallic adhesive dots as far as kind of the texture of them. They're not quite as textured as those, but they're a little more matte, yet they're still shiny. I don't know if that makes sense. So sort of like the metallic dots, but they're very, very pretty. And again, they're in little butterfly shapes. So brushed brass butterflies. So those are also some of the little free goodies that we got. And then one more stamp set to show you. Which is the Amazing Silhouettes, which is very pretty. It's sort of like the emboss resist technique without actually having to do the technique. You can just ink it, stamp it, and be done with it. So there's no embossing and no sponging and no daubering and no, blending brushes or anything like that. It's just a really pretty, really easy stamp set. So I love the butterflies too. They're really pretty. So that's all that I have that is like new to show you, but I figured I would sneak those in while I had you here. So a couple things going on. Kind of a couple things going on. I am doing a double reward point ordering bonus for all orders of $50 or greater placed through me through November 22nd. Kind of giving you a little head start on your Black Friday shopping. So thought that would be fun in addition to the sale that Stampin' Up! Currently has going on. My special runs a little bit longer than the sale does, so I just wanted you to be aware of that. So mine runs actually through the 22nd of November. The sale ends on the 18th. Which then brings me to the seasonal sale. So 10% off cardstock, 15% off ink pads, and 20% off dies from Stampin' Up! From today, which is the 16th of November, depending on when you're watching this video, through the 18th, which is Thursday of November. All of these things are going to be on sale from the annual catalog. If you haven't run over to the online store, run over to the online store and get busy shopping. So let me know if you have questions. All the details are linked up on my blog, which is stampwithamyk.com. So feel free to hop on and go order a few things while it's on sale, because they don't hardly ever put cardstock and ink and dies all on sale at the same time. All right. Second to the last thing, Stampin' Up! Has got a really good joining bonus going on right now. You can actually get the starter kit and join as a demonstrator for $75, which is way cheaper than it normally is. It's normally $99, so you can now get it for $75, and you still get to pick $125 worth of Stampin' Up! Merchandise in your starter kit, and you still get the free paper pumpkin, you still get free shipping, you still get the business supplies in it, so it's a really great deal. And on top of that, if you join during the sale, you get sale prices, so you actually can get more stuff in your starter kit. So which is awesome. Let me know if you have questions about that. Again, this is all linked up out on my blog as well, so if you have questions, just holler. And then the Eden's Garden product suite is available as well. So this is an early release item from Stampin' Up! The dies and stamp set and the bundle will be in the upcoming catalog. The beautiful papers and the gems will not. So if you have any interest in getting those, these items are while supplies last, so make sure you get on ordering them soon. All right, that's all that I had. Blah, that's a lot of stuff going on. So let's get busy stamping. All right, on my original card, I did my standard top fold on it. So a little different card base. This one is 4 1/4 by 11, scored at 5 1/2. This card base is actually 5 1/2 by 8 1/2 and scored at 4 1/4. Same exact card front, just a little different layout as far as how the card opens. What I'm going to do is use a little bit of Post-it note tape, or you can use whatever it is that you might like to use to mask off the edge here, because I'm going to be doing some stamping, and I don't want it to be like all over the whole back of the card. I only want it to be on the card front. So I've got cinnamon cider ink, and I've got the little pretty, this is the single flower image from the Blessings of Home stamp set. Almost forgot the name of the stamp set. And cinnamon cider ink and a cinnamon cider card base, and I'm just going to stamp this kind of repeatedly over the card front. A couple times, it's not going to be a whole pile of times, but a few times just sort of stamping it randomly. Some of them right side up, some of them upside down. All right. Oh, thanks, Pat. I appreciate that so much. And hey, Deb, thanks for joining as well. So hopefully y'all are having a good day and enjoying your Tuesday. I guess, oh gosh, I almost called it Friday, but nope, we're not there yet. It's still Tuesday. So, all right. Can stick one last one on here. I think we'll go down here. Since most of the middle of the card is going to be covered, I'm not going to worry too much about stamping over the middle of it. So I'm going to take off my little mask here so that I don't forget to do that and don't stick my fingers in the ink. And I'm also going to clean my stamp because we're going to be using a different color. Sorry, wiggle the camera when I do that. I'm going to be using a different color to stamp the image on the basic white panel. So ahead of time, I use the third largest of the stitched rectangle dies, which is the set of dies. So I use the third largest, which is this one. And I cut a piece of the Heart and Home Designer Series paper. This is a 12 by 12 pack, and I've got that upside down on the table. 12 by 12 pack that is in the new or the upcoming mini catalog and will be available on January 4th. What I love about this pack of papers, you can see a little bit of it here. The back sides are pretty much all different wood grain patterns, which I absolutely love and love to use. So definitely, yep, I'm going to be using this pack of paper a ton, and you all know that I do. So, all right, just use the little Stampin' Seal, and we're going to adhere that to the card front. Oh, thanks. I'm glad. Yep, masking off the back. I try to do that all the time. Sometimes I kind of inch it up and get a little close to the edge and I can make it work okay, but a lot of times I just make a mess and then end up with something I don't like. So usually I try to stick a little piece of Post-it note tape or just regular Post-it notes on the, right down the score line on the card base so that I don't have to worry about it. All right, and I have got basic gray ink this time, and again, I'm using that same floral image. I have pre-cut a piece of basic white cardstock with that same die, the same third largest of the stitched rectangle dies, and just stamped it basic gray ink. Just because I wanted a little bit lighter tone. On top of that, the paper coordinates with basic gray, so anytime I can try to pull in that, you know, the coordinating colors, I try to do that as well. All right, so we're going to start doing some coloring of the flowers here. I think I'm going to use the brush end on this one. I've got pale papaya that I'm starting with, and I'm starting with the light pale papaya. And if you did not know, you can actually stamp with the Stampin' Up! Water-based inks, the regular inks, and color with Stampin' Blends. The two, because the Stampin' Blends are alcohol-based, and your regular ink pads are water-based, they don't mix. So they, you know, as long as you give it a second to dry, you should be able to use almost any color that you would like to stamp in of the regular Stampin' Up! Inks, and then color them with Stampin' Blends. So, hey Roxanne, glad that you're here as well. So now I'm going to come back in with a little bit of the dark pale papaya. Just going to color in here, and again, Stampin' Up! Is so nice when they do these images for us. And they kind of show us where we should put the darker areas on it. So it makes it super easy for using your blends. If you're newer to blends, I usually always recommend that you start with a floral image. They're pretty forgiving. And I am not an artist or really excellent at coloring. I just kind of like to play around with the ink and see what I can make it do. So I definitely recommend doing that, particularly, like I said, with floral images, because they are so forgiving. And you can usually, you know, flowers are pretty, and if they're not exactly perfect, that's quite all right. They're not supposed to be. So there aren't too many perfect flowers that don't have a single thing that's not exactly the same on them. So, all right, next up I have got soft succulent ink, and that is what we're going to use to color in the branches and the leaves. Branches, I guess stems and leaves, not branches and leaves. All right, just coming in, and I'm starting with light soft succulent, adding a little bit of ink in, and again, just kind of putting it on the card. Depending on how large the area is, sometimes I will do pieces of it. Sometimes I will do a few more pieces of it. And right now I'm kind of coloring a little bit more just because these are smaller pieces and should be able to blend them still fairly easily. So I'll probably stop once I get this one done and come back in with a dark soft succulent and just add in again right where the darker, the shaded areas in the images are. I'm going to come back and just add a little bit of soft succulent ink in with the dark Stampin' Blends marker. And then I'm going to come back in with the light. Hey, Nook, I'm glad you're here. So thanks, Akiko. I appreciate that. So I'm sorry if I'm missing comments as they're going by when I'm coloring. I can't always look over and see what y'all are chatting about. So if I missed any questions, just holler again, or I'll look at them after the fact and answer your questions there as well. So, all right, just adding in, kind of coming back in and scribbling over the top, trying to blend it so we don't have any real harsh lines on there. All right, going to go down the stem here with the light soft succulent Stampin' Blends marker, color in the little leaves here. You really can use either side of the blends for coloring. When I'm coloring a little bit larger area, I tend to use the brush in. When it's a little smaller area, I tend to use the finer point, which is what I've got right now, just because the leaves are a little narrow and so is the stem. So I'm trying to keep inside the lines, which I don't always do successfully. But thank goodness we have the color lifter, so that can kind of shove things back in the lines if you need to. Hopefully we won't need to today, but you know, if we do, that's okay. All right, again, I've got my light soft succulent that I'm coming in adding in the color first. And I'm going to come back in with the dark. And I used all the same colors and basically the same shading techniques on the larger floral image from my original card. But this one is just a little bit, well, kind of a lot smaller. So that is why I went with this image rather than the larger one, because the larger one, it's not terrible to color and it wasn't really difficult or anything. It just would have taken a long time and y'all probably would have got tired of listening to me ramble on and bailed out. But all right, so I'm just coming back in. I added in a little dark, soft succulent, and now I'm coming back in and sort of blending a little bit together with the light. Trying not to have too harsh lines anywhere. And come back, finish the last couple little leaves here. Then we've got our little flowers that we're going to color and the flower centers, and we'll be done with the coloring part of it. All right, this is light and dark fresh freesia, and again I'm going to be using a little bit finer point on the flowers, just because they're not teeny tiny, but they're small enough that it's nice to have a little more control when I'm coloring, and so I use the fine tip end. And again, I'm starting with the light, and then we'll come back in with a little bit of the dark, and I hope I'm not shaking the camera too much. I can sort of see my light wiggling at the corner of my eye. That's usually when I know I'm starting to get a little heavy-handed with my coloring, and hopefully I'm not shaking the whole screen. And again, just coming back in, adding a little bit of dark around, and a few more spaces here where I'm going to come in and kind of blend a little, but that one sort of blended a little bit nicely kind of by itself. It doesn't need a whole lot of additional coloring. The flower centers I did with the cinnamon cider Stampin' Blends marker. So I've got the light that I'm starting with. And I'm going to color the flower centers on these, and then I'll add a little bit of the dark. And then I'll show you one more little technique that I use for creating the shadow around the edge of the flowers, and then we'll be done. I did forget, I was going to show you the coloring, the shadowing technique that I use around the edges of things. So I forgot that I was going to show you that, but we'll do that really quickly here once I get done with the coloring the flowers. All right, and I see I've got a few little spaces here of pale papaya that aren't colored as well as I would like them to be. So I'm just going to come back in and sort of just go right around the flower centers here and make sure that I've got that area all covered. All right, now comes the fun part, is adding in the shadow. So I've got a light smoky slate Stampin' Blends marker, and I'm going to use the brush tip, although you can use either one, and I'm just going to trace around it, everything, with the light smoky slate Stampin' Blends marker. And don't worry, I know it looks rather harsh and you're like, oh my gosh, what in the world is this crazy woman doing? We're going to take the color lifter and color over all of this, and it will lighten it tremendously. And you'll end up with just kind of a nice little shadow effect. It would probably be better if I hadn't had quite so much tea. I feel like I'm a little over caffeinated and I'm like, oh, but that's all right. We'll get through it. All right, so again, just finishing, this is light smoky slate, and I'm just going to trace all the way around the edges of all the flowers and the stems and the leaves, and kind of getting in between everything to make sure that we've got it all. Tracing around anything that's white, or that's up next to the white, I guess is what I should say. All right, and we're going to go down here in the middle, a little bit down here in the middle, a few little spaces in here. Okay, now again, I know that looks rather dark and harsh, and you're like, oh my gosh, she's just totally ruined the picture. But if you take your color lifter, what's the name of the stamp set? It is the Blessings of Home stamp set, which will be available to order beginning on January 4th. For demonstrators, we could start ordering on December 1st. It's one of those that those of us that attended the onstage event actually could pre-order. So I thought it'd be fun to use it today. So now I'm coming back in with my color lifter, and hopefully you can see what it's doing. You do kind of want to give it a second, so I'm just going to scratch over the top of everything quickly with the color lifter, and I'm just trying to lighten it up so that it's not quite such a harsh line. And hopefully you can see that it's just sort of turning it into a nice little almost outlined shadow of the image. So it's a way to sort of make it look like it's die cut without actually die cutting it, but gives it a little more dimension. But again, and it's a really easy technique. All that you have to do is make sure you've got your color lifter and just color right around everything with the light smoky slate. You can also use gray granite. It's a similar color, just a little different tone to it. So you can definitely use either or. So if you only have one set of the markers, either the smoky slate or the gray granite will work. So again, just scratching over everything with the color lifter. I also do this a lot of times when I have snowmen that I'm coloring to make it look like snow, because a lot of times they aren't really, they're a little lighter because you're usually using something like Pool Party or one of the lighter blues on it. So I usually will do the same technique where I color around the edge of it, just to give the snowman a little definition and to make him look like he's standing out just a little bit. So then once you're done with that and have kind of done your initial color through, give it a second to make sure that it's dried pretty well. And then come back in anywhere that it's a little bit darker than what you'd like it to be and just do a little more scratching over the top of it. And just keep doing that until you end up with the effect that you want. So that's it. It's super easy. Some really basic and simple coloring. And I'm going to come back in here because I got a little wild with my basic gray there. So I'm going to come back in and add a little pale papaya in over the top of that, and then that covers up my boo-boo there that I made. And that's it. So super simple. Now we're just going to adhere this to the card front with some Stampin' Seal. And whoop. I'm going to try to adhere it on straight. It always sort of throws me when I've got the background panel on at the angle and I'm trying to adhere something straight over the top of it. But I think we got it. All right, next up is some of the pretty denim ribbon. And this will be available again beginning on January 4th for customers to order. Just going to take that and adhere it with a little Stampin' Seal to the card front. Trimming it off here along the edge with, yes, my paper snips. I know. Karen's over there cringing already. But I got it. It's chopped, so that's all we need to do. All right, next up, I have got a little piece of paper here to stamp our sentiment on. And I've got Misty Moonlight ink. And again, this sentiment is from the Blessings of Home stamp set as well. And that's just going to pick up a little bit of the blue in the ribbon. It's all in the designer paper pack. All these colors are together, so that's kind of where I pulled the color scheme from. The only one that's different is the soft succulent is actually not in the paper pack. Garden green is, since we don't have garden green markers, I just use soft succulent instead. So I have got one of the dies. It's the center one from the wider dies, stitched rectangle dies. I'm going to run that through the die cutting machine over here to my right. So hopefully y'all are enjoying your Tuesday. We've suddenly kind of turned to winter here in New Jersey. Last week, I think we were in the 60s and 70s, and this week it's been 40s and in the 20s overnight, which is a little chilly. Went out this morning and the driveway was kind of all frosty, and it wasn't like slippery, but a little slippery. And I'm like, yeah, I guess winter is here. Ugh. All right. Okay, so I'm going to use a couple Stampin' Dimensionals, and I'm going to try to put them up towards the top just because I have the ribbon that's going to be tucked in underneath. So I'm just going to adhere those so that it's not, the sentiment isn't kind of weird and lumpy. So I'm just putting them up towards the top. All right, we're going to go ahead and adhere that on over the top of the ribbon and off to the side of our little floral image. Okay. I did do some die cutting of some greenery pieces. Again, I used soft succulent cardstock and fresh freesia cardstock and pale papaya cardstock. I didn't really have a set plan for how I was going to use all of these. I just sort of cut some pieces and figured that I would put them on until I decided that was a good, and then I'd stop. So I may do a little bit of snipping up of some of these. Just because I think like this one probably is going to be a little longer than what I want it to be. So I'm just going to use some glue dots here to stick that down. And I think we'll stick that one on here. And then I think I'm just going to go ahead and trim off some of the bottom because I think this is going to be way too long for what I need and what I want it to be. Yep, and I was afraid of that. Oh, my rolled up glue dot decided to unroll. And I've got Stampin' dimensionals that I so nicely stuck right up there near the top. So goodness, both of them are unrolled. All right, stay. All right, so I'm just going to take my little floral piece and try to tuck it. I should have probably stuck this down before I stuck the sentiment. There we go. All right, she can do it. Stay. All right, and I've got some greenery pieces here that I was going to tuck in around it. And again, I'm going to snip those off and using the little glue dots here. I'm going to tuck that one in. I think we're going to tuck it, hopefully, right next to the fresh freesia flowers. Yep, that one's going to go in there pretty well. And maybe we'll tuck in a couple of the little pale papaya flowers, sort of stick them randomly around as well. Thinking maybe I should tuck a little piece of greenery down towards the bottom as well, underneath the sentiment. All right, that's easy enough to lift up because I didn't glue that one down. All right, so we've got one little flower on there. I think maybe we'll put a second one on. I'm thinking maybe, whoop, tuck that one underneath here. And then we'll put one more kind of up here towards the top. All right, like that. Then we'll add a couple of the little white classic matte dots, which again, these are going to be available in the new catalog as soon as it's available for ordering for customers on January 4th. So this is another part of that whole product suite. So everything is in there. The denim ribbon is in that suite, as well as the stamp set bundle and the pretty designer series paper, and then these cool little matte dots. We're just going to stick those around the front. Don't love the placement on that one. I think we're gonna, there we go, tuck that one down a little bit closer. And that's it. So fairly simple. Again, this is my original one where I did a lot more coloring. This is the one we did here today. Looking at it, I maybe would have scooched it up just a little bit higher when I stamped it originally, if I'd known the final layout of things, but I think it still works as it is. If you wanted to put a little something up in that corner, you could definitely do a couple more die cuts, maybe some of the little flowers, and put them up there in the corner and call it good. If you like it as it is, then that's awesome too. So, all right, so the inside of the card I kept pretty simple. I just used that same floral image, and we're going to use some cinnamon cider ink, and we're going to stamp that right here along the edge of our basic white panel. The basic white is cut to 4 by 5 1/4, and it should fit perfectly inside my card base unless I've messed up the cutting on it. And speaking of the cutting and all the details, they will be posted on my blog tomorrow, which is stampwithamyk.com, and I'll also add them in a link to the blog post in with this video tomorrow once it goes live, so you'll be able to refer back to that if you want to take a look at the cardstock cuts or find out the names of anything that I used here today. Just going to adhere that together with some Stampin' Seal. Going to do a little crease here with the bone folder, and we'll be done. So, all right, so that's it. Hopefully you like the card. I love the stamp set, so I'm going to be using it a ton. It's beautiful. Let me swap these around so that holds the card front shut on the other. So again, these will be available beginning on January 4th for customers to order. They're available for demonstrators starting on the 1st. Let me know if you have questions, and I think that is about all. I'll plan to be live on my YouTube channel around 2 o'clock Eastern Time on Friday, and then I'll be back here again around 2 o'clock Eastern Time on Facebook Live next week. Chat with y'all soon.